A girl in her mid-20s stands outside a glass skyscraper, rain pouring down on her face. Her eyes are swollen, her fingers clutching a crumpled envelope. They said I could pay his debt with money. But I didn't know I'd have to pay it with my pride. As the elevator doors close behind her, the screen fades to black and a line appears. The big girl came to pay her father's debt. But the CEO said, "You owe me nothing but dinner together." Rain drenched the city that night, but none of it could wash away the shame clinging to Isla's heart. Her father, once a respected man, had lost everything to a failed business deal, and to the ruthless world of loans and promises. He'd borrowed from Ethan Reed, a cold, calculating CEO known for his emotionless deals and ironclad contracts. Now, Ayla stood at the doors of Reed Enterprises, the same company that crushed her father's dream, determined to make things right. Inside, everything smelled of power and wealth. Her plain clothes and trembling posture stood out among the sleek suits and polished shoes. The receptionist gave her a curious look, but Isla's eyes never wavered. She was here to repay her father's debt, no matter the cost. When she entered Ethan's office, the air shifted. The man sitting behind the desk was everything her father wasn't: composed, successful, and impossibly calm. His sharp blue eyes studied her for a long time before he spoke. "Miss Khan. Or should I say, the daughter of the man who owes me $2 million? His tone was firm, but not cruel. Ayla lowered her head, her voice trembling. "I don't have that kind of money. But I'll work for it. I'll do anything. Just don't take her home. My father is sick. I'll pay with my hands, my time, whatever it takes." Ethan leaned back in his chair, intrigued. Most people came begging, crying, making empty promises. But this girl, she offered her dignity. "You'd work for me? In this company?" "Yes," she said. "I'll clean floors, serve tea, anything. Just give me a chance." For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. He tapped his pen thoughtfully, then said something that made her freeze. "I don't want your work, Miss Khan. You owe me nothing." Ayla blinked, confused. "But my father's debt," he interrupted softly. "Your father was a good man. He tried to save his workers, not himself. I respect that. The debt was cleared when he sold me his last shares. You owe me nothing, except..." He paused. The silence stretched. "Except dinner. With me. Tonight." Ayla stared at him, unsure if he was mocking her. Dinner? With the man who destroyed her father's dreams? But his tone wasn't playful, it was almost gentle. "One dinner. That's all I ask. Not as your creditor, but as someone who wants to understand why you'd fight for a man the world already forgot." She didn't know why, but she agreed. That night, over a quiet meal in a rooftop restaurant, Ethan saw something he hadn't seen in years: honesty. Ayla didn't pretend to impress him. She talked about her father, her childhood, her struggles. She spoke like someone who had nothing left to lose. And Ethan listened. When she laughed about the time her father burned breakfast trying to surprise her mother, Ethan smiled for the first time in months. It was a strange feeling, warmth in a life built from ice. But as the night ended, Ayla stood up, thanking him politely. "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Reed. I'll never forget it." She walked away, leaving behind a man who couldn't stop watching her go. Because for the first time in his life, Ethan Reed, the man who thought money could buy anything, wanted something he couldn't buy. And that was the beginning of everything. Days passed. Ayla went back to her simple life, caring for her father, working part-time jobs, and never once expecting to hear from Ethan again. But he did call. First for dinner. Then for coffee. Then, just to talk. At first, she resisted. She didn't want pity from a billionaire who'd never known real loss. But Ethan was persistent, always calm, always patient. "You said once that your father believed people could change," he told her one evening. "Do you?" "I want to," she said softly. "But I've seen too much pain to believe it easily." That night, he told her about his own father, a man who'd abandoned his family in pursuit of power. Ethan had spent years building walls, making sure he'd never be vulnerable again. But Isla's courage cracked something in him. Their bond grew quietly, built on shared scars. Yet, when Isla's father's health worsened, everything seemed to collapse again. The hospital bills were crushing. One day, Ethan arrived at her small apartment unannounced, finding her crying over unpaid prescriptions. He knelt beside her and said, "I told you, you owe me nothing. But maybe I owe you something." He covered the bills, not as a favor, but as a promise. "This isn't charity," he said. "It's respect. For you. For the girl who walked into my office ready to sacrifice everything." Months passed. Her father eventually passed away peacefully, whispering with a smile, "You've paid my debt, Ayla. Not with money, but with love." At the funeral, Ethan stood quietly behind her, holding an umbrella over her trembling shoulders. He didn't say much, just a simple, "You're not alone anymore." Years later, when people spoke about Ethan Reed, they didn't call him the ruthless CEO anymore. They called him the man who changed because of a girl who had nothing but kindness. And when Ayla looked back, she realized something powerful. She never came to pay her father's debt. She came to heal two broken souls, her father's and Ethan's. Sometimes, paying a debt isn't about money. It's about giving someone a reason to believe again. Kindness heals debts that money never can.